Okay, everybody, welcome to the live stream. Today we are doing a 45-minute yin practice. So I recommend props. I have with me today 2 blocks. Are we back there? 2 blocks and a bolster. If you don't have yoga props at home, grab some folded blankets. Grab some big books, just things that you have around the house. Okay? Well, let's get started. We're going to start today's class off with breath. Take a comfortable seat. If you're tired, maybe lean against a wall so it's easy for you to sit up. It's always more comfortable sitting on something, whether you are in Virasana like me or in cross-legged. Pick your sit bones up, bring them behind you so that your perineum is able to plug in, and now you can support that beautiful S curve of the spine. So you start to find this architecture of your body. You start to find these right angles, the architecture of the pose. Because if the architecture is off, if the frame of your house is off, well, now we don't really have a good container. So you want to find great nature, the way that your body was created, the way you're supposed to be stacked up. Well, now all those lines of energy, your circuitry, everything can open up, everything can flow. So many of us are trying to adjust aches and pains. For example, our shoulder. Yet our spine is like this. And we keep trying to focus on the shoulder. Well, why won't my shoulder get better? Well, I can work on my shoulder all day long. If I don't have the frame of my house, this is always going to be out. So when we look at the body, we need to look at everything. And, it also includes the breath. If I'm like this, I'm only going to be able to breathe so much, right? Everything is squished. So find your frame, sit up tall and proud, create space for your lungs to open. So if you put your hand here on your chest, we have our clavicle, our chest. This is where most of us kind of keep our breathing. And then if you take your fingertips to your lower ribs, you have the home of your diaphragm. So your lungs are your breathing organ, your diaphragm is your breathing muscle. And then if you bring your hands to your ribs, they should be able to expand and contract. And the more you familiarize yourself with this entire container, the better you're going to breathe and the better you're going to feel. Now, we don't actually breathe with our belly. However, there is an intention. It's not that you breathe into your stomach. Your stomach is not used for breathing, but the diaphragm does go up and down here. So just drawing your attention towards your belly will help you breathe better as well. Sitting up tall, I want you to close your eyes and imagine the container of your torso. I want you to imagine like a cylinder, like a can of your favorite beverage, a can of kombucha, and imagine that can is getting squished and then it's inflating and squishing and inflating. And then just slow down that process with your mind's eye, eyes closed. Just keep filling up and contracting the whole container of your torso. The front body, the back body, the side body. So you start to use all of you, not just little bits and pieces of you. Ujjayi, constricting the back of your throat so that your breath flows in silky smooth and it stretches out a little longer, creating that soft ocean sounding like breath that only you can hear. Your breath regulates your central nervous system. So you start manipulating the body, the breath to change your mood, to change your internal world. And in a yin practice, we focus on a longer exhale. So you can inhale fully. And then see if you can exhale longer than your inhale. So that we focus on that relaxation piece, the down regulation. Most of our days are spent busy and rushed. So we're doing that chest breathing. We are kicking in our sympathetic nervous system, which is adding stress, adding hormones that cause us dis-ease throughout the day. So this is your chance to change that trajectory, to change your hormones, to change your mood. Take 3 more slow cycles of breath. See if you can slow them down even more. Letting go of whatever you're working through right now. You can think about those things later. There's nothing to do right now. Just be present and breathe. Good. And when you're done, you'll come off your block and you'll make your way into a wide-legged seat. Now, the distance, I don't want you to go super wide here. That's not really all that functional. I want you to bend your knees. Take your right hand to your outer left ankle, your left hand to your outer right ankle. And you can sit on your blankets here if you know that your legs are really tight. And keep this contact. Slide the legs away and bring them wide. Now, when you start losing that contact, that's where you stop. So some of us might be here, a lot closer than we think in most poses. And of course, you can keep your legs bent. And then you can release that and sit up tall. So your knees can be really bent here. You can sit on blankets or bolster. Now, how do you know if you need them? You will need them if your spine looks like this. Yeah? So I don't have those S curves right now. So to fix that, if I didn't have props, I could bend my knees. To adjust that, I could sit on my blankets or my bolsters. I could keep my knees bent or I could straighten them out. And just like when we were sitting there breathing, I want my sits bones back. And if the floor feels far away, maybe you'll benefit from placing your hands on some blocks or books. So set yourself up with some intention, with some structure here. Now there is a point in yin too when we're kind of allowed to just like flop and slop over. But first you find your frame. At no point am I on my tailbone, yeah? So even if I'm rounding forward here, I have my sits bones back. So if I were to sit up tall, I'd find those 3 natural curves. I'm going to rest my elbows here on the block. And if it's okay on your neck, just drop the head. And then come back to your breath, focusing on your exhale. The sensation in the legs is a level 2 or 3 out of 10. It's not the most extreme sensation you can handle. You're not gritting your way through this practice. You're easing into these poses. You're allowing these shapes to unravel slowly. The only to-do list is to relax and to breathe. notice where you carry stress in your body. Your neck, your shoulders. Let it go. We have a problem with worry and anxiety in our society. We have a problem because we think that worry is an action, that worry is doing something. And when we think that worry is an action, we start to become addicted to worry itself. We become addicted to anxiety itself. And it's not intentional. And it's nobody's fault. It's just the way the brain works. Learning to be present, learning to control the mind's activities is very, very helpful in mitigating any symptoms of anxiety. When we're worried about something, it's better to do a real action, something tangible, something to relieve the anxiety, some sort of process, a conversation. But worry itself gets us nowhere. It only causes us more distress. So learning to take bold action when necessary. And when we can't change something, when there is no action to take, understanding that the very best thing for us is to just let it go. That worry is not helpful. And it's easier said than done, so that just comes with practice. When we're worried, we're focused on the future, so we're not in the present moment. When we feel depressed, we're focused on the past. We're still not in the present moment. So even here in yoga, you get to practice being in moments that sometimes feel good and sometimes feel a little uncomfortable. And you practice just staying with it, no matter the experience. Not ruminating about the past or worrying about the future. Just being in the here and now. Because the power of the here and now, unless you are in mortal danger, is that it's almost never as bad as we think. You almost never have as big of a problem as you think in the present moment. That you are here and safe. There's nothing to run away from. And that there's nothing to do but breathe. Slowly straighten the arms. Good. Bring your blocks beside you if you're in the middle, and then use your hands to help close the legs. Good. Point and flex through the feet. Good. I'm going to stay seated on my bolster. I'm just going to turn to face you. I'm going to straighten out, keep the left leg straight, but I'm going to bend my right knee. And I'm going to take a look at my leg, and I'll have my knee facing the same direction as my right big toe. Then I'll bring the blocks in front. I'll notice if I'm sitting on my tail. If I am, I might try and scoot my sit bones back. So for most of us, it's going to feel weird. It's going to feel like we're really leaning forward, but that's actually where our pelvis needs to be. So if you've lost the pelvis, you've lost the pose, the alignment of the spine, it's really important that we learn how to sit. Now, if you're very, very tight, you might want to hang on to this leg and just work on sitting up tall, maybe your block is even beside you because there's no chance of folding forward. The higher you sit, the easier this will be as well if you are tight. And then if you have the wiggle room, maybe you start to lean forward. So now you start manipulating the inner groin, the inner thigh, another very, very tight area for most people. And if you're very, very flexible and you're not feeling anything here, you might work on taking a bind. With the right arm in front and the fingertips grasping behind the leg. We're going to hold this one for a shorter period of time. I love the kind of yoga classes that allow for you to just wear big fluffy sweaters. It's not a sweaty class, it's just a feel-good, gentle class. I like both, but there's a time and a place for both. And there are different ways to change your mood. Sometimes it helps to do something more fiery, like we did a 90-minute power yoga class yesterday. It was supposed to be 75, but I went a little bit over because it just felt so good. Yeah, like sometimes you need to burn through things that are stagnant. It helps to burn through them. But if we're always just burning through things, eventually we burn out. So if that's what we always gravitate to, it's important to play with the polarity. It's important to play with the opposite. Switch sides. Heel under knee, knee and toe in the same direction. Okay. You could hang on to the knee, bring your hand to a block and just work on sitting up here. You could work on leaning forward, keeping the chest elevated. Maybe the blocks even need to be up higher. Or you could bind it. This is my tighter side. I'm going to pick this variation. I don't always do the same variation on each side because each side of my body is not the same. So you can adjust as necessary here too. Yeah, so if you're also always someone that gravitates to the slower practices, which are very, very healthy for you, it's also important to know that we also need that fire. So we want to play with the yin and yang of all the yoga practices, and thank goodness there are so many different kinds of yoga practices that serve us. Take 2 more slow cycles of breath here. Good, and come away from this pose. You'll make your way onto hands and knees. And you'll do some cat-cows. Inhale pulls you forward. Exhale pulls you back. Inhale. Exhale. And then start to circle the hips. It doesn't matter which way you went, left or right, clockwise or counterclockwise. Just notice which way you went. Notice what side you prefer. Notice what side you gravitate to. Becoming more and more attuned to your own natural rhythms so that you can also switch up the way that you do things. You know, if you're always brushing your teeth with your right hand, maybe sometimes you brush it with your left hand. So you start to build new movement patterns, go the other way, the way that's not natural to you. Flip your wrists. Lean back a little. Maybe even the palms can lift. Maybe you can put a little bend into the elbows, maybe not. Just work where you're at. Good. Come forward. Turn the left hand forward and the right hand forward. Okay. I'm going to do a heart opener. Option to have rolled up blankets, a bolster. This will be more gentle. I'd have that right at the bra line or at the base of my shoulder blades and then head down. So this will be a more gentle option. So you want the bolster up higher, like armpits, or for something a little more intense, you'll take one block at its medium height, one block at its highest height. You might be able to drop that block, but most of us will need that at its highest. So the first block will be right at the base of my shoulder blades. So women right where the bra line is. Men, just imagine where that is. And then block underneath the head. Now, the reason that this block is higher for most of us is if I drop the block, then my chin starts to go all the way up, which isn't ideal for my neck. Again, I want those 3 natural curves of the spine. So this would be more ideal. Now, your legs could be straight, your knees could be bent. You could bring your feet wide and rest your knees together. You could also take Baddha Konasana legs, bottoms of the feet together, knees wide. So now you're in your yin practice, but you're multitasking. You're in a hip opener as well. You pick what works. Now, if you're very tight in the chest, your arms might be floating here. That might be too intense. So you could bring your arms in close to you. You could rest them on your body or just at your side. Set yourself up with good measure. Find a position that is on the lower end of the scale of intensity from 1 to 10, something that you can hold, something that you can sustain. And then once you're there, get any last itches out of the way, any hairs in your face out of the way, and then be still and breathe. And for most of us, that's the hardest part of yin, is being still, is being present, is relaxing. A lot of us have this thought that, we're too busy. We're too busy to relax. We're too busy for yin, too busy for yoga. Well, that's just not a very helpful story, that we are a victim to time. In reality, we create time. We are the creators of time. There's always time to do that which is most important to us. And I don't doubt that each and every one of you is very busy and hardworking and productive. And there are very many important things you need to do. However, there are a lot of things that we're spending our time doing that we're not actively, intentionally choosing to do. So if we spend our whole day cleaning our house before we decide it's time for yoga, then cleaning the house is the most important thing to us. If we check our phone and check our Instagram and check our Facebook before we do yoga and take care of our bodies, then checking our phones is the most important thing to us. So it's one thing to say out loud that I value my health or I value time with friends or time with my children, but my actions might tell a different story. And we might not have long periods of time to devote to a practice, and that's okay. And that's why we also offer many short practices on the digital studio. Because it doesn't have to look a certain way. Maybe your yoga practice is 5 minutes of breath, 5 minutes of movement. The longer the better, of course, but that's not always possible. But meanwhile, we might say we don't have time to shop and cook healthy food, or we don't have time to move our body. Yet we spend so much time gossiping, shopping, checking our phones, watching Netflix. And it just tells a different story about what's really important to us. Change the positioning of your arms. Maybe you cactus your arms or grab opposite elbow above your head. And in taking an evaluation of our time, it's not meant to shame ourselves or judge ourselves. It's just helpful to get really clear and honest about where we're spending our time so that we can find where we're wasting our energy. Yoga helps us get more honest with ourselves. It helps us fall in line with integrity. Because the more time you spend with yourself paying attention in the present moment, the less likely we are to lie to ourselves. The less likely we are to be clouded, to be distracted, because it's the practice of awareness. Yoga is all about the mind. If you took opposite elbow up and overhead, switch which forearm is on top. Come back to that visualization of the container of your torso, the can, inflating and contracting it. And maybe on your next inhale, first filling up the lower part of the can, the mid can, the sides of the can, the back of the can, the fronts of the can, and then crushing the can on your exhale. Retraining how you breathe will impact your energy, your mood, and it'll also, like, aesthetically even change how your torso looks as it gets more muscles involved. It helps you find your deeper core muscles. Take 3 slow cycles of breath here. Good. To come out, feet on the floor, knees up. Take your time. This can feel crunchy, especially if you're on the blocks. Slowly, slowly roll to one side. Use your arms to support you so you don't flop. And just lay on your side here for a moment. Take as much time as you need here. If you're ready, press your hands into the floor and sit up. Good. Pigeon pose. Now, lots of options here. If you're really tight in the hips, then lay down on your back and take pigeon on your back. And it's really helpful here if you take your right foot here to the wall. That'll be a nice restful way to do pigeon. You don't even need your arms if this foot's on a wall. Otherwise, you can make your way into a single-legged pigeon. I really enjoy propping my pigeon, so bolster or multiple blankets folded nicely. We'll start with our left leg bent, so working on the left hip. Bring the blocks in towards you. So first look at your back leg and make sure the right leg is going straight back, not at an angle. And then place one hand on your thigh, one hand on your foot, and lift yourself up. So you start to open up the right hip flexor. You start to find those 3 natural curves of the spine. So most of us are really flopping into pigeon in yoga when this left hip should be really lifted. Most of us are leaning to that side, which is not good for our sacrum or lower back. So just like when we were sitting in the beginning of class breathing here, you want to think about getting your perineum down. Pubis, navel forward. And then to lower down, 1 block here, 1 block for my forehead. So this block will rest at the sternum so I don't flop into it. And this block will be for my head. And some of us might even need to be up higher. Maybe you need some folded blankets on top of the bolster. And if you're lucky enough to have some sandbags at home, you could place them on your sacrum. Imagine your hips being pulled back as the heart pulls forward. Imagine a little golden thread coming into the very crown of your head, traveling down the cervical spine, the thoracic spine, the lumbar spine, all the way down to the tailbone, finding that long line of energy. And then notice the left side of your torso. Notice the right side of your torso. Notice your right shoulder drop back. Notice your left hip drop back. Notice your left shoulder drop back. Notice your right hip, bring it forward and down. Breathe into the container. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Relax on the exhale, lengthen. Fold a little bit deeper. So you keep working this first fold, the hip crease, bringing your belly closer and closer to your left thigh. Relaxing what you don't need here. What are you still holding on to? What are you still gripping? What story do you keep repeating? Where are you stuck? Breathe through that place. We can't force our body to open. We can only allow, you can only create the container and create the space for grace to allow it. Take your time here. Tuck your back toes. Come back to your throne, sit up tall. If you're on your back, squeeze your knees to your chest. If you're in single leg pigeon, take your time and step back to downward facing dog. Just pedal it out here. Taking the other side when you're ready. So pigeon on your back, thread the needle, or pigeon on your front. Check out your back leg, make sure it's not at an angle, and the top of the foot is straight down, so the heel is straight up. What that'll do is prevent any unnecessary pressure on your knee. You don't want your ankle flopping one side or the other. If you can't, then tuck your toes. Sit up tall, put yourself on the spit. Good, and then when you're ready, slowly coming down, maybe a block under the sternum, a block underneath the head. Of course, you can do this without blocks. This is just more structure, more stability so that the pose is easier. And take your right hip back a little, your left hip forward and down. Bring your mind's eye back to the length of your spine. See if you can get a little taller. Bringing pubis, navel, sternum forward. Spread your collarbones to either side. Open up your lungs. Notice the right shoulder, the left hip, the left shoulder, the right hip. The left side of your torso, the right side of your torso. Start to notice the container of your body. Notice your skeleton, these right angles, these geometric shapes. Notice the soft tissues surrounding the bones. Notice the fluids of the body, the circuitry of the body, the energy of the body, and the breath body. On your next inhale, fill up the container. Exhale, relax more, find more length, find more fold. So you start to manipulate the circuitry with your breath, the subtle energies of the body. Notice what's preventing you from being present. Can you just watch the stories that are going through your mind's eye? Watch them like clouds, watch them show up, and watch them leave. There's no need to grab onto them. Your mind is like a computer that's always playing movie reels and storylines. You are not those storylines, you are not those movie reels, you are the one that is watching them. And you can choose what shows you're going to watch. You can choose to shut off the TV. So if you don't like what you're watching, it's time to change the channel. Take 5 slow cycles of breath here. Did you try and breathe faster when I said that? Can you breathe slower to relish that time? If you're on your back, squeeze your knees to your chest. If you're in single leg pigeon, put yourself back on the throne. Tuck your back toes. Slowly make your way back. Downward facing dog. And pedal it out. Move around in it. And when you're ready, come back to a comfortable seat, Virasana or cross-legged. If you prefer to do breath work on your back, you can lay down flat. Just a few minutes just to round off our practice. Fit your hands to your knees or your hands to your heels. Rock the pelvis forward on the inhale. Rock the pelvis back on the exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, all through the nose. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Come back to neutral, find that spot in the middle. Now, Viloma Pranayama, imagine that you're going up the steps with your breath. So it'll be fragmented. You're going to go up the stairs for 8 counts and then exhale fully. And we'll do that a few times. And then we'll reverse it. You'll inhale fully and you'll go down the stairs. We'll do that for a little bit and then we'll go up the stairs and down the stairs. Take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Breathe in staccato. In, 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 in. Fully exhale. All through the nose. Breathe in, 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 in. Exhale fully. In, 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 in. Exhale. In, 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 in. Exhale. Now reverse, fully inhale. Breathe out, 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 out. Inhale. Out, 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 out. Inhale. Out, 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 out. Inhale. Out, 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 out. Inhale. Fully exhale. Now up the stairs, down the stairs. In, 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 in. Out, 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 out. In, 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 in. Out, 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 out. One more. In, 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 in. Out, 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 out. Breathe in together. And out together. Turn your palms towards the ceiling. Stay here, just noticing the effects of that pranayama. Notice what your practice gives you access to. Notice any changes in temperature or mood or inner chemistry. remember that worrying about our external circumstance is less important than being able to manipulate our internal circumstance. And it's much easier to manipulate our internal world than it is to manipulate all external circumstances around us. And it's always within you to be able to adjust your mood, to change your day, to change your trajectory. It's all within you. Bring your hands together, Anjali Mudra, fingertips touch space between the palms. Bow your forehead towards your hands to seal off your practice. May you be happy, may you be healthy, may you go about your day with ease. Namaste. Thank you so much for joining me for this live stream. I hope you found that practice beneficial. You can find me at Karla Joy Treadway on Instagram or on my website, karlajoytreadway.com. Nice and simple. I'll see you guys next time.